who want to come into the space, so you can share what you know about the system, and of course get to pick up one or two updates in the session today. Of course, for those who are experts already, it would be nice to also hear your thoughts. Um, our sessions are always very interactive, and we use the chat as much as possible. For example, if I'm asking a questions, if you want to answer, you raise your hand. What I'll do is to now give you the mic to speak for now, just to manage when people join. There are always disruptions here and there, but just to manage that, we have put all the mics and camera off. Hopefully, if you want to answer any questions, just raise your hand. Then I'm going to unmute the mic. Then you speak, and of course, by that way we can manage, because it's a very large. I'm expecting more people to join as much as possible. Okay, so let's really go deep into this. Thank you very much. Please use the chat as much as possible. From time to time, I'll pause to go to the chat and just see what your responses are. Thank you all of you for responding. Tony, if you cannot hear me, please you can check your mic. Kindly reconnect. I mean, it's possible that you might have some mic issues. Kindly go out and reconnect. I believe then you should be able to hear me. Thank you, Tony, if you're still here. But you can confirm if you can now hear me. All right. So welcome everybody. Let's get into this now. This session will probably stay for about 2 hours or thereabout. And hopefully for those who are already with us, because this is the beginning and would continue as we move ahead. But please let me know by raising up your hand and dropping messages in the chat. That's a very good way we can communicate. All right, so about me briefly, some of you already know me. Some of you are already students in my session. Some of you are just meeting me for the first time. I think I'll just do the honors. Let me see if I can just show my face for probably a few seconds, so that you know it's not AI that's speaking to you actually. Yep. So this is me. So it's good to connect with all of you. So in case you see me outside, you kind of have, a good impression of what the face looks like. I won't keep my camera too long on in case you don't get to see my face again. No, I've put it off. Okay. So, well, for introduction, my name is Kelechi. As much as possible, you can call me that. Okay. Sorry. I think froze at some point. Yeah. So my name is Kelechi Keliadile. I'm basically a finance transformation expert. I've been on this journey for over 12 years now. I've been involved in different digital transformation projects around the world, especially focusing on ERPs really. SAP for me is not just a system, it's a passion. I have gotten to really love the system. I've gotten to use it to support a lot of projects. And, I've had my fair share of disappointments and successes. I guess that's what life is all about, anyways. But it's been a very good journey so far. I've learned, I'm still learning, and I'll keep learning until probably I cannot learn it. I can no longer learn. But that's me for just briefly. I'll not bore you with all my certifications, but basically my background is in finance, and I'm also a certified SAP consultant, and I've done a lot of work around Scrum, around AI, around business analysis, about project management, and also, I am an instructor with Udemy, the online learning platform, and of course, a professional trainer. So this basically brief stuff about who I am, or who am I. For the training agenda today, we're going to be looking at, I'm hoping that we're going to look at welcome and introduction. We'll look at the ground rules. We'll look at setting the scene. We'll introduce SAP as much as possible. Then we'll have our wrap up for the day. Um, just to make sure that we have the right mindset for this. It's it's going to be an open session, very interactive. I would really love you to share your thoughts, because I mean, I am only limited by the experience I've had. Some of us have had very wonderful experiences. Some of us are coming from diverse backgrounds. So the beauty of this session will be when we bring in all our experiences, all our thoughts. So we're not looking for, this session is not for experts. So we don't expect anybody to, come up with experts explanations. No, we just want to hear what you think. And it's a forum where we can all share our thoughts and open our, and just say what we know or say what we think or share our experiences. That's the most important thing. It's not really about being right or wrong. It's just about collaborating, about engaging, and so everybody can learn from each other as we move on. So we would expect collaboration as much as possible. We recognize those who are support who are actually active. Well, if you want to connect with me, you can reach out to me I'm on YouTube. So you can just search for my name, Kelechi Kele, or Kelechi Adele, or Kelechi Kele Adele, which is this. You would see my, you can find me on YouTube. I think I have over 100 videos now and over 2,000 subscribers. So it will be a good way to connect and see what I've put out there. And also, when we're done with this session, I'm going to actually upload it on YouTube. So if you connect, then you can actually get updates as I upload stuff. Also on LinkedIn, you can connect to me on LinkedIn. Some of us are already joining from LinkedIn. If you're doing that, that's fine. That means we're connected already. But if you're not, same, just go to Kelechi Kele Adele. You would probably find me on LinkedIn and just click the connect button so we can stay connected. All right. So this is Tell Me About Yourself session. So please, in the chat, I'd like you to just tell me your name and where you're joining from. That would be very great. So I get to meet every one of us. Can you guys hear me? Somebody said the voice is not available. Thank you, Singh. Firaha, if you can't hear me, please, you can rejoin. You can log out and rejoin. Thank you. Thank you, Singh from India. Thank you, Juliet from Lagos, Nigeria. So please, if you could share where you're joining from. Okay, thank you, Lakshmi from India. Thank you, Sanjay. Sorry if I don't pronounce the way, but let me just say San from India. Thank you very much for joining. Mike from the US, Effie from Germany, Dami from Germany. Thank you guys for joining. Just waiting for the next 30 seconds, then I move to the next thing. Oh, thank you very much, Ben. Thank you. Antafu and Nafu from Ethiopia. Thank you, Ben from Port Harcourt in Nigeria. Thank you, Ikena from Scotland. Thank you, CF from Tunisia, and Daniel from Lagos. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. It's nice to have you all here, and I'm really hoping we would, as much as possible, benefit from these sessions. I'm also joining in from the UK, although I'm originally from Nigeria. So good to meet you all. So let's move into what we have for today. Thank you, everybody, for sharing that. I appreciate it. Okay, so the next thing we have is, well, just to show you some of the courses we have or we're working on. We have what we call the SAP technical training for all functional consultants. We have trainings like, CEO, we have internship programs, we have SAP business analysis, we have agile project management. These are just courses that we do from time to time, not regularly, but depending on where we are. I've also told you to connect, but I have courses on Udemy and on YouTube. Please feel free to just search with my name and probably you would get what you want. Okay, so haven't gone through the introductory sessions, which was quite brief, and thank you guys for engaging. We're now going to break the ice, and hopefully I'm going to give people the mic as much as possible. Please, if you want to use the chat, it's fine, but if you want to speak, just raise your hand, then I'll probably give you the mic. I'll get the notification and give you the mic. But please, I want people to speak as much as possible as you also use the chat. All right. So I have a question here, which will most likely use the chat. How much do you know about SAP S4HANA? So you can use A, B, C, or D in the chat. You don't need to type the whole word. So we have not much. I have a good idea about it. The C is I'm knowledgeable about it, and D is I'm an expert. So if you could share, so we so I kind of have an idea of the mixture of what we have in the class. It will help me know if I'm explaining deeper or if I'll probably keep it at a very high level. So if you could share with the chat, the question is really how much do you know about SAP S4 HANA? Yeah, okay. Okay, Mike says A. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mike. Not much, so that's good to know. LVC, knowledgeable, good. Um, Singh is C, knowledgeable. Daniel A, not much. Lakshmi B. Okay, so Benjamin C. So we have a mixture of A, B's, and C's. Joules is B. Okay, good. Thank you guys. Um, yep. So I'll just wait for 2 more seconds if anybody wants to drop any other thing. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, for confirming. We have few A's, few B's, and few C's. So this is a very good um, update for me. So I'd probably sit very well in terms of trying to explain concepts as much as I can. So, but thank you very much. That's just what we have. So now that I understand the demographics of knowledge we have in SAP, let's now dive in and see what we can learn today. Now, like I said, this class is not your typical SAP training where you start talking about SAP, talking about the history and all that. We will get to all that, but I want to start this class by challenging our minds. Since I have the demographics of those who know, those who are knowledgeable, and those who kind of don't know much. Let's now pick our brains as much as possible. But this is the exciting bit about joining my sessions. Like I said, it's I prefer to give people an experience of learning, um, and also share my experiences as much as possible. I believe that's the best way to learn. So we're going to start this session with a case study. And this is where everybody, as much as possible, I like those who are already knowledgeable about the system. Some of you have been in projects before. I'd like to hear your thoughts as we go through this case study. So please, I'd really look forward to speaking with you guys, and I'm having your mics unmuted. So this is case study of widgets, and we're just going to see how this whole thing. Sorry, I there was a mistake somewhere. Um, Basically, this is plain sight. The other one I had was the old one. So it's a case study of a plain sight INC. The company was actually, so if we look at the introduction of the case study, let's replace widget with plain sight at some point. Now, yeah, actually looking at undergoing a digital transformation, focusing on the problem faced and how digital transformation with SAP S/4HANA supported its transformation from stagnation to streamlined success. So let's look at some of the challenges that this company, Plainsight or Widget, was facing. Now, one of the first challenges they were going through was inefficient operations and manual processes. Yeah, and like many other companies we know right now, a lot of companies still go through this, even in a real case scenario. So you have poor order management in terms of operations, you have lack of inventory control, you had missed production schedules, you have poor compliance to quality controls. These are some of the issues that this company was going through. Just have that at the back of your mind. First was inefficient operations and manual processes. Please, if you have, it would be nice if you have a biro and a paper just to take notes briefly as much as possible so you can follow up and really maximize the value that this class tends to offer. That would be that would be an advice for all of us. Then the second issue they were going through was slow and inefficient finance and audit processes, right? So you had, very slow manual month-end processes. You have meeting compliance deadlines. You had missed supplier payments and high customer bad debts. You had poor compliance, unable to meet tax obligations. You had no clear segregation of duties and workflow processes. So this was also another very serious problem that that the company was facing. And like many other businesses are facing now, some businesses miss compliance deadlines, some have poor compliance with regulations, and a whole lot more. Then the third was lack of data and insights, no centralized information. Every information was sitting in siloed in different systems. We had poor decision making because once things are sitting for example, you know, operations is not speaking with finance because they all have finance are probably managing payables on Excel sheet, or even though they are working on a system, it's not properly being updated, and because of that, we're having issues with meeting up with our obligations with our suppliers, and of course limited customer understanding because the sales team was managing receivables on, and invoices were not flowing as they should. Just basic similar issues that every normal company may be going through right now. And the fourth, we had poor financial reporting, compliance issues, and audits. Inaccurate financial reporting because, of course, transactions were not recorded as they should. Compliance gaps, delays in meeting statutory and regulatory reporting requirements, adverse audit findings impacting financial credibility, inability to effectively reconcile financial transactions. So this is a business case of a company that is currently undergoing or going through some of these issues. And I can bet you that even where we work as individuals, there's no perfect system anywhere. It's either, you know, they're battling with tables, or they're battling with or they're battling with user adoption in terms of using the system, or it takes a while to generate financial statements or something, right? So I guess that's why you need consultants, or that's why you employ people to help solve these problems. But every organization has a problem, and there's no perfect one. There's always a problem with one department or the other, or you are either not using the system as you should. A lot of issues, a lot of concerns here and there. So with this case study, I want let's have a let's discuss, yeah, and you can share your insights or you can share your example. Does this case study, how does this relate to you, or do you have an experience, with what Plainsight or Widget is going through? Do you have similar experiences? And what's your advice, really? What do you think this company needs to do to be able to come out of this mess that they are in right now? So, like I said, we're not experts here. I myself, I'm not an expert, but it'll be good to get your minds on what do you think would be a good solution for what this company is actually going through. If you had similar experience and you're in a project, and you tell us what the challenge is or was and how it was resolved, it will be very great to hear from you. If you also can use the chat, awesome. But if you want to share your thoughts, around what do you think this company needs to do to be able to get their system together, or to be able to manage these issues, that they are going through. Why I'm asking this is because for most of us who have joined here, we're probably working somewhere. Um, and for those of us who are not working in a robust environment like SAP, you would want to work somewhere, and people are going to employ you to actually come to solve problems. So I need to pick your minds on seeing what they are going through. What do you think would be, um, what can you recommend on how to help Plainside INC to come out of these issues? Any person, please use the chat if you have an idea, or if you want to speak to us, feel free. We have about 5 minutes for this session. So please share your thoughts. What advice do you have for this company that is going through this very difficult time? So if you want to speak, just raise your hand and I'm going to call you, or just put a chat that you want to say something, then I'm going to reach out to you. How can we support this company? Anybody wants to try? Okay. Okay, thank you guys. I've received very good hands. So let me allow Mike. Ike, you can go ahead and speak. Um,
Okay. Good morning, all. Uh, Thanks. I'm happy to be in this session. Okay. Okay. Regarding the scenario you created. First of all, I want to say the scenario is not on the current slide. Okay. Maybe if it's on the current slide, I can also be looking at it. Okay. But
what's that?
regarding the scenario, it's
Okay,
not
okay.
currently on the slide.
Oh, can you not see it?
Okay. So I'm not. What I can just see is obviously it's not the scenario itself, but it's maybe problems with plain sight was facing.
Yes, yes. That's the scenario actually. I'm painting the scenario.
Okay,
This is the
okay,
scenario. Yeah.
okay. So yeah, for me, the first of all, I'll start with maybe a similar experience I've had in the past. Okay, I
Okay.
was on a project, or say or I was working with a company whereby currently they're having obviously poor reporting
Okay.
issues that they need to meet. They are quite slow with obviously their reporting, and that's because
Okay.
obviously the systems are in silos. They are on different systems and they are not able to coordinate that. Also,
Yeah.
it's affecting their stakeholder in terms of maybe funding requirements for that they
Mm.
need. And
Yeah.
I'm just trying to relate this to also the scenario you've painted. The
Okay.
problems they are facing obviously includes having to manage their inventory properly and also
Mm.
reconciliation as well. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, month end reconciliations and activities. Okay,
Okay.
so and for me, what would I would suggest would be obviously to have a deeper dive into why this what are the reasons these things are occurring. Is it
Yeah.
does it maybe does it relate to is it how significant is it also, and system wise, is it a system issue, workflow? Does it relate to maybe the workflow or the current process, or do you need to redesign that process a bit just to adapt to maybe what may be more modern? And then at maybe the type of systems that will be applicable, if it's to use SAP as and do maybe gap analysis or feed gap analysis to adopt that. But I'm just saying it's more of doing a deeper dive to understand the reasons why these issues are coming up, and and also what where you intend to go, or what the output they intend in terms of maybe it could be that the reporting the reports they need it in a different format or template.
Okay. Thank you.
The current template is different and stuff like that. So just
Thank
that's
you very much, Ike. Very good point. I've noted that down. A deeper dive to understand what the issues are would be a very good way to go, and of course recommend possible solutions. Thank you very much, Ike. The next is Evie. Evie, please go ahead. What do you think? Hi, Evie. You can unmute and speak. Okay. So while Evie is trying to do that, Mr. Mike, can you share your thoughts? Hi, Mike. Can you hear me? Yeah, I think you're muted already. Just unmute yourself if you want to speak. Okay, I think we have. Hi, just unmute yourself. I think your camera is active, your mic is active. Okay, so let's move on while we wait for. Okay, okay, so let's move on while I think Mike might be having some issues with unmuting his mic. Can't unmute. Okay, I think I will need to check this briefly. Do this. Okay, try unmuting now, Mike.
Yeah, good
Awesome.
afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. The pain points of the company that you have just given us are very common to many companies, like you pointed out. In fact, I work in an organization that had this problem. Um, the reconciliations were in arrears, financial reporting were in arrears, auditing reporting were in arrears. So many things were in arrears. And even the system they had were in silos. Payroll system in silo, financial management in silo, everything. And then a lot of work were being done using Excel. And how did we go about this problem? How we analyze the pain points like this? We did a gap analysis and we decided to implement a better solution. Although it didn't go well because of the implementation challenges, but from the company that you have just presented, they they need to have. It is clear that they don't have a good solution in place because you said they are using Excel in addition to having a lot of them in silos and everything is in arrears, which is not good for decision making. So they have to implement an ERP system solution so that they will be able to integrate all the information processing in the company as a single point, so that they will be able to take decision quickly and then train the staff, put them on board, and make them to go along the new transformation. So they have to go through a process of transformation, really. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mike. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And thank you, Ike, for also sharing your thoughts. Evie, I think you can unmute and speak now. You just have about 2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you everyone for being on board. Thank you for the mic. Yes, I think it's almost the same like Mike mentioned already. So they are operating the manual processes, which is actually causing a lot of confusion in the system, no decision making, and yeah, automating the system would be the way to go by using ERP. making sure that the system is well connected. I think Mike also, mentioned about training, gathering requirements, finding the gaps and finding the best solution for them, and eventually train the users so that they can cooperate and work together to achieve one single source of truth, that the system is functioning, have a unified system that functions to benefit the organization.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, guys. I appreciate this thought. Like I said, there is no expert here. It's just about sharing your thoughts, and that's the beauty of these sessions. But thank you very much. And I got very good points there. I know I talked about, doing a deep dive, probably finding gaps, doing some analysis, as mentioned by Mike, also implementing an ERP solution. There's this concept about centralized view or single source of truth, as said by Evie. Training was emphasized. System automation was also good. But I think these are very good ideas on how this problem can be solved by this company. But there's one thing, there is also another view to it. Many, even in today's world, right? Many big companies have very robust systems that actually, that they have put in place. They have the unified structure, they have a system that gives them the single source of truth. Why do they still have issues? Why is it that companies do not still have, there's still issues here and there around, whether is compliance, whether is transactions, whether it's using system usage, whether it's enhancements and all that. So the answer to that is, as long as human beings are concerned, nothing will be perfect. No matter how perfect a system is built, as long as human beings are operating it, it will never be perfect, because there are different knowledge levels. In some organizations, there is very high staff turnover. People come, people go. Even when you train, people leave, some new people coming, you have to train just like that. And there are different levels of understanding, of how that system to work. And that's why it will never be perfect, right? There will always be need for people who have as much skill and as much experience as possible. The near perfect system you will have are people that are very well trained and very efficient, and they stay, they are within the organization for a while to pass on that knowledge also to others. So it's like it's a typical thing in life, really, that no matter how good a system is, as long as people are involved and organizations involved, there will always these problems will always be there. Funny enough, it sounds ridiculous, but there will always be problems. And once there are problems, it's a good opportunity for everybody who wants to upskill and improve their current skill level. So thank you guys for your contributions. They were very, very helpful. And please, if you have questions, anybody who has questions, use the chat, and it will be good to hear those questions. Now, let's look at another way we can help Plainsight, go through this problem. Not just a way to go through, but like a structured end-to-end, what we call implementation journey. And I'm just going to explain this. And when some of you who shared your thoughts, you mentioned some points. You mentioned training, you mentioned analysis, you mentioned gaps, you mentioned single source of truth, you mentioned automation. Really, but if let's look at let's look at the structured way and the path end-to-end process that Plainsight can go through to actually nip this problem to the bud. But this is not this is just giving you an idea. So ideally, if we have, the first thing that will happen is, because they want to go through this journey, they want to solve this problem, they need to come up with a strategy. And that strategy, you have things like what we call the target operating model of a company, we have implementation strategy, we have a lot of strategies organizations have. So it always starts with how. It always starts with how to answer the question, how we solve this problem. And the best way to answer the question how is to come up with a plan. So you can call it a plan, you can come up with a strategy, and once the company develops a strategy on how to solve this problem, the next thing is, of course, human beings, stakeholders. So you need to make sure that all the responsible stakeholders who has to be involved in this process are, they also have that passion to want to solve the problem. So there is commitment, there is the message is out there. Everybody needs to work hard. There is from the top, there is a very strong support for this journey. Then, of course, you have most of the business analysis work that will have to happen. Some people talk about gathering requirements, doing analysis, doing fit to standard workshops and all that. All those processes will sit within doing business, analyzing the business, right? To make sure we can provide and we identify the needs and of course drive the change that the business wants to experience. Then once that happens, there's a design. We have different types of designs, but there's a design on how to, and within that design, you probably have what system you're going to be using, since things are sitting on different places, like somebody mentioned. How do we integrate this business? How do we make sure after identifying what the issues are, how do we make sure we bring all those different parts together? And of course, once we have a design, how do we implement the system? How, it's really around what tools do we have? What system are we using? What project management methodology will we be using to drive that project? And a whole lot more that goes into making sure that the system is the system is designed according to business requirements. Then we have done the implementation, we have testing to make sure it fits. We have data migration activities that needs to happen. We have integration works that needs to happen to make sure that every part is working as planned. We have support and we have maintenance. So this is just giving you a snapshot of what it feels like to drive that transformation that this company would need to actually go through their journey. And guess what? At every of these points, this is a complete knowledge space for a consultant. So you see now it involves a whole lot more. And for today's consultant, it doesn't, why I'm sharing this is to give you that end-to-end view on what it feels like to be in a digital transformation project, where it starts and where it ends and where it continues, because it really doesn't end, but it's regular maintenance going forward. But funny enough, at each of these points, we have human beings, we have people who need. So at each of these points, we have people who require the skills and the knowledge to be able to drive this process along these paths. So sometimes you have testers, people who will test the system, you have people who have data migration skills, you have system integrators, you have those who are consultants or analysts who will support the users. We have in maintenance, we have, of course, the technical team who will be supporting both basis and ABAP consultants, and of course, functional consultants. In implementation, you basically have everybody. In business analysis, you have BAs and PMs and every other people in the project management space. For stakeholder management, it's really around the project team making sure that all the stakeholders are informed and they go about with their duties. So this just gives you what it will take, a journey to drive them from the mess where they are in now to where they need to get to. And if you look at this journey, for me, it's really around who it's really around empowering people to be able to take on these are all activity points within the digital transformation journey. That's why you have in an ERP project, for example, you have functional consultants, you have BAs, you have PMs, you have testers, you have those who are specialized in data migration, you have the analysts who will be supporting users, you have those in maintenance. So this just shows you why a system needs different people to be able to solve their problems. And this is for me an end-to-end journey of what a typical consultant who has been in a project before would need to go through. While in real life, you have many people just sitting around here and some people sitting here. And when you sit in these two, you feel like you understand projects. But the truth is that an end-to-end project is really about from strategy down to maintenance. And it depends on, your career path, it depends on your exposure, depends on what you're currently doing, where you're currently working. It depends on where you find yourself. But it doesn't stop us from thinking wide and thinking the end-to-end points. So that tomorrow when you want to join projects, you understand where you fit in, really. Even as a functional person or as a BA or as a project manager, whatever space you occupy, you understand that end-to-end journey, and it's important so that you appreciate how everybody fits into that journey. So one of the things you have to take home is that this is a journey. It's not just being about being a consultant. It's good to be an SAP consultant, but you need to think about, as a consultant, you need to think widely. You don't have to just think about the system. If you're a functional person, it's implementation or digital transformation is much more than just doing implementation work. There's a whole lot more that happens along that journey. Okay, now we have kind of understood how this whole picture, what the picture is. Let's, go a little bit into what an ERP is, because we had people talk about the siloed nature of, the business case we had. But one of the solutions that the company will need to go through is to implement a system that can really that can address most of the issues that has been discussed, issues of reporting, issues of audit, issues of transactions, different issues that have been mentioned. It's a good case of driving that digital transformation using a system that can manage those core processes. And that system, one of them is what we call an ERP. We have a lot of systems. But basically, ERP is a business software that integrates. So first thing you would see here is when you use the word ERP, for people who need to understand what it is, E here means enterprise, and I'll break this down. R means resource, and P means planning. So it's called enterprise resource planning. When you look at the word enterprise, it means a business. If you look at the word resource, it means people or systems, and much more. Planning talks about strategy. So there are three cardinal components in ERP that you need to be very aware of. One is ERP is about businesses. It's not about, you have to soak yourself. And when we say business, you can tie this to processes. So if you say you are working in an ERP, the first thing you need to understand is the language of business and processes. What is a process? A process is things that are done, probably regularly, within a regular sequence. For example, what's your, like a routine? For example, before you go to work, of course, let's say you go to bed. When you wake up, you have to, you have to brush your teeth. You have to wear clothes. When you wear clothes, you have to probably get a taxi. You have to have breakfast, get a taxi, go to work, do your work, and come back. That's a process. Or, for example, what's the process of selling something? You have to, for some businesses, you have to raise sales orders, you have to do invoice, you have to, receive the payments, and you have to do your posting. So any routine that you find within an organization is a process, and that has to be within the context of business. That's one thing you must know about ERP. So it's not just knowing the word, it's understanding how deep this word feels so you can relate. The second thing is resource. When you have a business cannot run on its own. It needs resources. And by resources, we mean people and systems. And that is where we come in as consultants. And that's where SAP comes in. So let me do this. That's where SAP comes in. And that's where consultants like us come in, or users, whatever we are. So it's really about resource. So people need to be involved. And at the heart of ERP is people. I'll keep saying that it's not the system, it's the people. No matter how beautiful an ERP is, if the resource people are not doing what's supposed to be done, there is no ERP. So people is supreme to what the concept of ERP. So that's why, as a consultant, you need to understand the power of stakeholder management and people. And sometimes you see in projects, we put people at the bottom of the whole plan. It's wrong. When we're driving a digital transformation, people should be the first thing, not the system. But you have a lot of implementations going on in the world where the focus is on the system. We're implementing SAP. SAP is coming, SAP is coming. And we know we do all we need to do in SAP, but we forget that no matter how beautiful a system is, if you don't empower the people to use it, and if they don't use it in the right way, you're going to have that system will not work. So the emphasis in this generation has shifted from system to people. And by people, we mean all the users, all the stakeholders. And you have to also plan for change management. For example, in this case study we're having, if you don't train people, if you don't work on their minds, if you don't empower them to be able to, use the systems that you have put in place, it's as good as implementing a failure. That's why a lot of projects fail. They deprioritize people and they focus on systems. And they just think about people at the later part. Everybody is excited and we are rolling out SAP, wonderful, but nobody has thought of how to manage those who are going to be using this system, how to manage them early. We do a lot of project planning, but we put people at the bottom of the project plan. Why they are the ones that should be at the very top. I think if I'm hoping to be a project manager in the future, if there's an implementation, I'll start with the people and just prioritize them, make sure that they are well taken care of and they understand why this change is happening, come up with programs to keep them engaged, always keep them informed. Because like I said, the resource people is the most important resource in the concept of ERP, not the system. And of course, the last part is planning and strategy. And that's also another reason why projects fail. We we don't do proper planning. We just follow a methodology. And once we fill in all the blank spaces, we think we're ready to implement a project. But planning or strategy is key. Planning resource, planning systems, planning everything, planning stakeholders, planning risk, planning everything. So that's where the project managers come in and the BAs and all those major stakeholders. Because for me, planning sits with program or project management, while the resource sits within the BA space and with SAP functional consultants. And of course, the business is the big part where everything has to be implemented. So that's the concept of ERP. In case you've just been hearing the word, but you have not really taken your time to understand how deep this word is. It is very deep. And it's when you understand what an ERP is that you can appreciate your role as a consultant. So we have many people out there who have just got into consulting, but they don't really understand how deep the concept is. And that's one of the major takeaway for you, I believe, in this concept. And you can see that at the end of the day, you see the word integrates. It's a very important word in the concept of ERP. Now we have three people. We have business, we have resource, and we have people. It is the success of any implementation is how you integrate processes with systems. And that's the big bit, really. If you look at it, that's the big bit. So if you have, for example, business, you have business processes, which is how the organization work, plus you have systems. Sorry, I think my stuff is on. And you have systems. So the integration is not integrating modules. No, it's not about integrating different parts of the system. It's about integrating everything. So sometimes when we hear the word integration, we just think, oh, if you take, for example, what we call a line of business, let's say finance, banking, materials management, sales, HRO, it's really about integrating all those processes. No, it's not just about that. It's about integrating business and systems. That is what an ERP is expected to do, not integrating just systems or LOBs within a system or modules within a system. No. And that's another shift in the mindset. Many people, when you hear the word integration, they just focus on, oh, the different modules in the system, we have to integrate them. No, it's much more than that. Integrating in the ERP world talks about the two fundamentals, which is the business and systems. So you have to understand what the business does and what the business wants, and you have to be able to align that with the system and make sure that two of them are integrated so that they can deliver the value that they need to do the job in the business. And the second word you hear here is automate core processes. Automate core processes. So within a business process, we have what we call LOBs, which is line of businesses. So LOBs mean that if you check an organization, you have people in finance, you have people in procurement, you have people in sales, you have HRO, just like that. These are what we call line of businesses. So another thing that ERP does is to automate these processes. So it's the ability to make sure they can speak to each other seamlessly without manual intervention. So for example, if I raise an invoice in SAP, it automatically should create a finance posting. Although invoice is a sales transaction, or if I do a delivery in procurement, you see, procurement is sitting in materials management or is sitting in procurement. Sorry, delivery is sitting in procurement or material or management. But when I raise a delivery, it impacts finance because there is stock that is leaving the system, and behind stock we have inventory valuation. So you see, it is the core of ERP is to make sure that these processes are integrated seamlessly, and we need to do all this in a single unified platform. So it's not having multiple systems sitting in different places to do this task. Is having that single source of truth, single view, such that information can flow within these LOBs. And that platform acts as a unified nervous system. Just the way your body is all connected to your heart, or your heart is like the power base of your body. Everything is, your heart is connected to veins, to arteries, and all that, and blood flows through all those to the heart, and the heart controls all and your mind and everything. So you see, the human body is a complex, very complex central nervous system, and God is great to actually design something like this. But that's the idea of ERP, is to have the heart, which we'll see in a later class, which were what we call the, we have the different layers, the application layer, the database layer, where everything sits and data flows and data moves out. So, acting as a nervous system and connecting data, streamlining workflows, and providing real-time insight. This is actually the concept of ERP. And you need to understand it very well to be able to have the authority you need as a consultant. When, for those who are already consultant, wonderful, but you need to understand that just being a consultant is not the goal. It's really around understanding how all this connects together and how we're able to support businesses. But understanding the concept of ERP, how that ties back to LOBs and how these things need to integrate together. Please, if you have questions, you can use the chat. Another thing you must know about ERP is that it collects shared data into single source of truths, enabling better decision making through unified reporting and analytics. So because we have a system that is like a central nervous system, it picks data from each of these LOBs. For example, if I post a transaction in finance, and I post a transaction in sales, and I post a transaction in procurement, I can run a report in the system to show me trends about performance. What the central nervous system will do, because they are all integrated in one platform, it will pick information from finance, it will pick information from procurement, it will pick information from sales to give me that unified reporting I need to now make better decisions. But if I have finance sitting on another system, if I have sales sitting on another platform and they are not integrated, the time it will take me to pull this data together, put them maybe in a Power BI template and start putting codes or writing some formulas to generate something to think, that takes a lot of time and we must have missed out on the decision. That's why having all this information sits in a unified platform is important. It's much more than just using a system. It's about the system sitting at a very critical place, and it pulls data from each of these LOBs and is able to interpret that data based on programming and codes that have been set up in the system to be able to give you insights that you will never think about. Just the way AI works, yeah. AI is a land language model that has all. So when you run a prompt in AI, it goes into the database of information to pull out. And it doesn't just pull out those data. It has to put it in a form that you have requested for via your prompt. That's the idea behind you know understanding the single source of truth, or understanding the central nervous system by which an ERP sits. Sorry, we're going to be going for a break very soon. Now, so instead of separate tools, an ERP uses central database for all departments, ensuring data consistency, enabling seamless communication and automation across the entire organization. That is the power of ERPs. And it's very beautiful when you understand it this deep, not just about learning it to get a job, but trying to understand really what an ERP is and how that impacts businesses. Then you're able to deliver that value you need to your clients. Okay. Please, if you have questions, you can raise your hand or you can drop your questions in the chat. Let me see if I have any questions at this point. Okay. So, okay, no question. So please use your chat or raise your hand or let me know if you want to ask. Thank you. Okay. So we have the evolution of ERPs, which is, I'm going to be very brief here. ERP started somewhere in the 1960s or even far back But it all started because of the Industrial Revolution and the need to manage inventory. Of course, if you read about the Industrial Revolution that happened way back, you know, there were booms in a lot of economies, and the issue was massive production, massive manufacturing, high demand. So because of that, the earlier systems were inventory related because we had large factories that were running. So we needed systems to manage the inventories that were being, when you take out, when you issue out, and when you move it from transaction into your store. So it started with inventory packages. In the 1970s, it moved into material requirement planning, which is core part of manufacturing. So the idea was to make sure that a system can plan inventory for us automatically, right? So automatically, if I have five stock and I'm doing a production this today, the system should be able to tell me, is this five stock enough? If it's not enough, how many additional stock do I need to add? And not just how many do I need to add, which vendor is supposed to supply that, and automatically raise a purchase order to that vendor, and that vendor will supply. That's the concept of MRP. It's a system managing your manufacturing process automatically. Then it moved to, of course, the 1980s, MRP got more enhanced or more advanced. Then in the 1990s, we looked at the concept of ERPs. Before the 1990s, everything was sitting in siloed systems. And that will now give us an idea of why SAP was birthed. As at that time, it was big business to have systems sit in different parts. Why? Because you will sell it. I mean, if you split inventory and you sell inventory separate from finance, it looks like a good business deal. It looks like, because people will pay for different things. But you see, there was a problem because these things were sitting in silos, and of course, IBM was one of the front runners of digitalization then. That's where SAP, of course, the employees that left SAP were against or wanted improvements. They didn't want things to sit in different systems. They wanted to see a system where everything was integrated. But that was not a good business model. Or, I mean, IBM had their reasons why they wanted things to stay separately. Now, of course, the concept of ERP started in 1990s. ERP moved into the cloud, or the web, www dot, in the 2000s. By the 2010s, we have had cloud ERPs. And of course, 2022 upward, we are having not just cloud ERP, but ERP cloud that is infused with AI. So this is just giving you a brief scenario of how ERP has evolved over the years. So it's really come a long way. And also in the concept of ERPs, we have three common ERPs, like we have seen. We have ERPs that are cloud-based or cloud-enabled. We have ERPs that are custom built to meet specific business cases or have that hybrid nature between cloud and on-premise. And of course, we have on-premise ERPs that sit in a physical location. So they are not cloud-enabled. You have to have them in a specific location, seated in a specific server. So these are the three common ERPs you will probably find when you use ERPs. Then just the history, very briefly. Some of us are new to SAP, so it's good to share this. So SAP was founded, quite some while ago, over 40 years, and it was founded by the former employees, former IBM engineers. We have names are quite long, so I'm not a German, so I'm not able to pronounce this, but um, we had Wellen, we had Hop, we had Hector, we had Platner, we have Tachira. These were the five guys that pulled out from IBM to develop something remarkable. So, what was the vision for the five SAP pioneers? It was to develop a software package that married a company's diverse business functions together. So, it was about marrying, it was about integration across business and systems. That was the vision. The idea was to help companies replace 10 or 15 different business applications such as finance, APARO, warehouse, production, solutions, plant maintenance, and so on, with a single integrated system. Because at that point, this must have been a very big challenge. Because as at that time, every business process was sitting on a different application. So you just imagine bringing all this together. You know how, for example, if you take, for example, a company like one of these global companies like Coca-Cola or Shell, can you imagine how these companies are in probably different countries of the world? Can you imagine bringing one system that can integrate all their processes in one system and broadcast that system to every other locations in the world? And whatever you do, for example, in a country, let's say South Africa, there's somebody in Germany sees it. That was a very when you think about it, I mean, at that time, I believe why IBM did not see it as an idea, I'm sure they must have pitched it, was, I don't know, but hopefully they didn't see the future deep into what they were seeing. And that was what gave birth to SAP. That's why SAP is really one of the world renowned ERP systems. So we're going to go for a 5 minutes break now so that we can digest. And I can also, all of us can take a coffee, take water, and just relax. Just 5 minutes. At exactly 5 minutes, we're going to be back. And when we come back, we'll continue with the sessions. And within that, if you have questions, please do well to drop them in the chat. And we will, of course, come back in 5 minutes. Thank you very much. And I hope to reconnect with all of us. Thank you.
Next level awaits. It's on you. You must take the first step. See, faith without works is dead. So I need you to take action right now. See, action is the foundational key to all success. And when you take action today,
you can share in the chat if you're back so we can continue. Yes. All right. Thank you very much, guys, for confirming. All right. So just to bring this, just to give you some insight. So that vision, just to show you how that vision has happened for the five pioneers of SAP. Remember, the vision was to help businesses replace over 10 to 15 different applications that were running in silos to bring them into a single integrated system. Now, let's see what that system looks like. So, for those who have not worked on SAP before, this is what they came up with. And to show you how how these five guys integrated this, if you look at SAP, for example, and you look at what we call the line of businesses, we're going to see that much later. Here we have audits, we have business partner. These are just screenings, but let's go. We have tax compliance, we have logistics. And in logistics, we have a whole lot of LOBs, a whole lot of business processes. In logistics, we have equipment tool management, we have materials management, we have governance, we have sales and distribution, logistics, SCM, production, blah, 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 quality, a whole lot, project systems. And the beauty of this is we have people consultants that sit in all these different areas. So before, you can imagine that in the past, most of these processes might be sitting on different systems in a single department. So what they did, SAP did, or what the pioneers did, was to bring all these logistics processes into one platform. Now, if you go to finance, for example, if you go to accounting, you're going to see different business processes. You're going to see financial accounting, you're going to see financial supply chain management, controlling, central finance, enterprise. You see, all these are business processes. So that was in the past sitting on different systems. So what did this ERP do was about bringing all these processes together on one platform. If you go to HRO, you'll probably see some more business processes in HR. So the concept of ERP is clear, that the idea of ERP is to have a single platform where different business processes happen, with the goal of maximizing the data that have been fed into these processes to give businesses insights and make them stand out. And we're going to see why companies prefer SAP, or why SAP is now hopefully one of the largest ERP in the world. Let's move into that. So if we go back to our slide, let's look at basically functions of an ERP. When you see a system and it's an ERP, what do you expect? One is it supports integrated business processes, just like we have seen in the SAP database, or the SAP system I just shared. It supports integrated business processes within an organization. It improves capital planning and helps execute operational plans and strategies, help to speed up decision-making processes, help extend business networks and to wider domains, identifies operational risk for improve governance, provides protections against data breaches, and a whole lot more function of what an ERP is or should be doing. Now, let's move to the next thing. This is just giving you an insight into how SAP, we have seen how ERP has evolved. This is how SAP has evolved for those who are also new to SAP. It started in 1972 during the, I would say, Industrial Revolution and the boom. And we had the first version called Arrow 1. So when the guys challenged IBM, they went out, of course, they worked with a lot of developers, programmers, a lot of business people to design their first ERP system, which was born in the 1970s. So we had Arrow 1, which was a version, and we had Arrow 2. This is important for those who are new to SAP or those who have forgotten. Then we moved to 1992, where they introduced another version called Arrow 3. It was more like a more improved version of the initial version. Then in 2004, we had the very prominent ECC. ECC is still being used now. For me, it's one system that I I will never forget, but it was quite a thing. Yeah, if you're worked on ECC before, it's like driving a manual car, but it helped me to really understand the architecture behind the system. So I still have some very good love for ECC, but it's hopefully phasing out very soon. So it started, in 2004, and followed ECC 5.0, and followed by ECC 6.0. And of course, in 2009, we had the SAP Business Suite 7, EHP 6, EHP 7, and the rest of them. And in 2015, was when SAP S/4HANA was introduced, and it had both on-premise and cloud versions. And S/4HANA has grown. In 2021, we have what we call Rise with SAP for SMEs. We have Grow with SAP. We have a lot of other add-on SAP modules like Ariba, like Concur, like HCM. So all these are standalone modules that can be integrated into SAP. But this is giving you a brief history of how far SAP has come. And of course, we're in the age of AI, and Joules. We're going to see that very briefly. So the next question would be, is SAP S/4HANA just a name, or, let's see. Now, that word SAP S/4HANA, remember, I'm not using the word SAP. I'm not saying SAP. I'm saying SAP, because it's not a word. It's an acronym that it's a acronym that it's fused by, what SAP really is in terms of the full name. So it's systems, applications, and product in database. So we don't call it SAP. We call it SAP. So when I go to environments and I hear people saying SAP, I will just know that they are new to the system. We don't say SAP. We say SAP because it's not a word, it's an acronym. And let's now go into SAP at a glance. Let's see what it really means. SAP S/4HANA, we have seen, was released in 2015 as an ERP business suite. HANA, the word HANA means something. So it's not, when we say SAP S/4HANA, it's not a word. It's an acronym that came from different sentences. So the HANA you see there means high performance analytical appliance. That's what HANA means. So it means that it's a high performance analytical appliance tool. Then SAP S/4HANA is for short a business suite for SAP HANA. So that S4, it means suite 4, because we have other suites, meaning that it's the fourth version of the SAP Business Suite, the fourth version. Remember, we had some versions. This is where Business Suite started in 2029. We had suites, other business suites. But in terms of the database, this is the fourth suite, business suite, but that has been designed to run on only SAP HANA. So before now, SAP was running on other databases like SQL, Oracle, and the rest of them. But when in 2015, SAP developed their own database that HANA, that the business suite runs on. So S4 is a business suite that runs on HANA. So HANA is the database where everything happens. But the business suite that runs on that database is S4. And of course, its most noteworthy attribute, the most noteworthy attribute of SAP S/4HANA is its simplicity and ability to work on large volumes of data. Because of the high performance analytical appliance, it's able to process high volume. It's one of the challenges we had with ECC. Once the data is so much, it doesn't process data as fast as, it's not, can't compare it to HANA that is sitting on a RAM, within the memory of it doesn't sit on the hard drive, it sits on the memory of the laptop or the system or the server. It doesn't sit on the hard drive. So that's why SAP needed a change, because ECC was built to sit on a local server. It was built to sit it was built for on-premise. It wasn't a cloud-enabled system. So of course, when the cloud journey started and the cloud competition started, SAP had to develop a tool that could sit on the cloud. And that's why they developed their own database that was cloud-enabled and developed the fourth business suite to sit on that database. So it's quite worthy to note. Now, if you look at the solution stack of SAP, it's also very important you know what the solution stack is. SAP has they have a lot of products, but in the stack, they have three main platforms. And they have sub-platforms, really. But the first platform is at the very top is S4. S4 is the largest SAP platform. S/4HANA is the largest SAP ERP platform they have. And you can see here that it's built for large organizations, very large. I mean, the Shells, the Totals, the Googles, the Coca-Colas, all these multinationals sit on SAP because it's built to manage that complexity within the large business space. For mid-sized businesses, they use what we call SAP Business by Design. It's also another solution which in my current workplace I'm currently using. So Business by Design is used for mid-sized businesses and it can cover up to 1,500 employees. Once you're going more than that, you need to move up to S4. Now we have the last one, which is SAP Business One. It's also a product of SAP and it sits around small businesses. So SAP has products that covers both small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and large businesses. So when you get out there in the job market, you will be seeing some of these products. You will see BYD, you will see Business One, you will see S4. This is just to let you understand that these are different. Let me make sure I'm recording this. Sorry. I hope so. Yep. Okay. So these are different. SAP has created products to meet different businesses within the market. So whether they are small businesses or mid-size or large, SAP has a platform for them. Of course, currently we have what we call Grow with SAP and Rise with SAP, which is challenging BYD. That's why there has been news that SAP will stop core support for BYD or has stopped core support for BYD. They will even stop selling BYD from what I read next year. Why? Because they want to push other products within the mid-size market, like Grow with SAP or Rise with SAP. These are new products that have come up that is seriously challenging BYD. But they will stop selling it, but they will keep supporting. They will do minor support, especially for patches to help with the security. But there's no major upgrades to BYD anymore. So this is the products just for your information so that when you see them, you understand that these are SAP platforms. So the next question is why SAP S4HANA? Why are why is this ERP one of the most sought after? Why are SAP consultants one of the most sought after in the world? Why do businesses want to use SAP? What is SAP? Why is it so what's that quality that makes it so good? Of course, it also has its challenges. So let's look at why SAP in a very nice flow. Now you can see that SAP, if we look at global reach first, SAP is a major market like US, Europe, Asia Pacific, and of course also in Africa. SAP operates in over 180 countries in the world. Just take note of these points. SAP, if you look at the industry impact, it's used for virtually all industries you can think about, whether it's manufacturing, retail, finance, care, robotics, or any basically healthcare, NGOs, whatever industry you have or you need, SAP has a product or is designed for that industry. And of course, it's also in finance, energy, and public services. Now, if you look at the customers, SAP has over 425,000 customers total as of 2025. 425,000 customers. Now, and 80% are small and medium-sized scale businesses. Now, we also have corporate adoption. It has strong presence in Fortune 500 companies, and 92% of Forbes Global 2000 companies use SAP. So SAP is a very, very nice tool. It has global reach. That's why an SAP consultant in a small in any country of the world, let's say SAP consultant in South Africa or in Nigeria, can be an SAP consultant in Germany, or can be an SAP consultant in China, or can be an SAP consultant in the US. It's one system. So if you know how to use it wherever you are, you just automatically become a global skilled person. Or you once you learn it and you're very good with it, you have global reach. Your skill can your skill is globally being sought after. So what if you migrate to another country, you are still you're carrying a skill that is useful in that country. And that's why SAP is like the big deal right now in the ERP space. So all these customers will need people. So if they're in 422,000, if they have 425,000 customers, imagine that how many consultants that they would need, you know. So if they have 425 customers, that means for each company you might have, if you have probably 10 consultants, or so you're seeing that it's, they will need. That's why the demand for SAP consultants is high, because a lot of companies, SAP has a lot of customers. So you need consultants, you need analysts, you need BAs, you need PMs, you need all these people to be able to support you in making sure that you use SAP in the right form. So this is just giving you that global figure, that global view of SAP. So it is irrespective of where you are. Once you have SAP as a skill and you know how to use the system, you already set yourself to be a globally in demand skill. You already have a globally in demand skill automatically. It's not, it's as long as you can communicate in the language of that country, which is also a barrier to most consultants, but that is what it is. Now, if we look at also another thing I wanted to show was the global market share, in terms of skills. Yeah, you can see that Asia has the highest in terms of market share of SAP. And market share means translates to consultant and skills. So if you go to Asia, for example, with an SAP as an SAP consultant, you probably have more opportunities. Of course, we can see America, both South and North America. That's why America is also, I think, the largest, although I think Asia is the number one, followed by America. America has a lot of opportunities for SAP consultants, a lot. And you can see that it has a strong consulting demand for 11.5 billion market. So when I see people in US, I mean, I envy them, because US is a hub for SAP consultants. Once you're in the US, it's a little bit easier because there are so many opportunities in the US compared to in the US and Asia compared to Europe. So if you look at Europe, for example, 23.5%, including, and of course, Germany leads, and UK, and then Spain. If you're in Germany, in Europe, you probably would be changing SAP jobs, because that is the birthplace of SAP, and I believe most of the companies in Germany use SAP. And of course, SAP some time ago was valued as the most valuable company in the world. So, I mean, these are just showing you opportunities. Then if you look at Middle East is really growing, especially in UAE and Saudi Arabia. Really, really growing. So most times you get, I know I've had job opportunities for UAE, for, Saudi, I've had people reach out as much as possible. So 4% Middle East is very good. And of course, we have Africa, which is 3.1%, with Africa, with South Africa being a major contributor. So I think the South African market has more demand for SAP consultants compared to Nigeria or other African countries. So this is giving you a view why migrating to these countries are also will give you some context. So for example, if you're moving from Africa that has about 3.1%, and you're going into Europe, for example, you would see that you would have a lot more opportunities if you get into places like Germany or the UK. If you're migrating, for example, from Africa to Asia, then that is a very big opportunity for you. If you're migrating from Europe to America, wonderful. It's a big plus because America has the second largest demand or investment in SAP. So it's not rocket science. It's just looking at figures and seeing why when seeing areas where if you, for example, you're in Africa and you're trying to develop your skill, you now know that if I'm skilled in this and skilled now, and I have opportunity to migrate to any of these continents and have a very big in demand skill. And any of these countries you go to, if you're living from Africa, is a good plus. If you're in India and of course the Asian Pacific areas, SAP is also very big in India, for example. There are a lot of Indian consultants around the world. So, but if you're moving from Asia Pacific to maybe if you're moving from maybe India to China or India to Europe, it's still a lot of opportunities for you. Or of course, India to the US. Awesome. So you see that this is just showing you how the market is and why when you migrate or why you need to gain this skill because it's globally recognized. You cannot learn any. I think if you know it, if you learn it and you know it, I don't think you can ever be, you know, you can you can ever be hungry. As by hunger I mean opportunities. So it's something that even in Africa that has this very small share, there's also a problem of consultants. We don't have enough consultants, for example, in a place like Nigeria or in a place like South Africa. That's why SAP is always doing programs to raise young people to be able to meet up with the demands for the market. Yep. And this just showing you when we talked about LOBs, which we are going to look at very, very soon, SAP has what we call modules. But before modules, let me talk about the LOBs, which we call line of businesses. This is just one snapshot of the SAP Intelligent Enterprise. So you can see that SAP has LOBs, which is line of businesses. By line of businesses, we mean core business processes like financial planning, procurement operations, manufacturing. They are not SAP modules. They are business functionalities, business capabilities. What we call modules is what we call the end-to-end process. So you can see here that we have different modules within SAP to manage the LOB capabilities. So we have concepts like design to operate, finance, lead to cash, source to pay. These are the new S4HANA concepts. Meanwhile, these are called modules. Within the system, like I showed you, we have finance, we have material management, we have sales, and each of these modules need consultants to be able to run in them. So finance is not the only module. We have a whole lot more modules that people go into and you can find consultants in those spaces. Although finance is at the heart of all the modules. That's why we have more demand for finance consultants compared to any other module. Because before you use SAP, you must use finance. You must use finance. You must use material management. You must use sales and distribution. You must use CEO because CEO is now part of finance. I think these are the foundational modules. That's why for these 4 modules, you have more demand for consultants because no matter how small the business is, you must use these 4 modules. Then sometimes people will decide to want to use any of these. If they want to do HRO, they can pick HRO. If they want to do projects, they can pick project. But these are the 4 foundational modules, and that's where most of the consultants are around the world, and of course HRO in terms of HCM. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up this session very soon, once hopefully at the career bit, and we'll continue next weekend. Any questions at this point? Anybody wants to share thoughts, questions? Let me see. Feel free to raise up your hand if you have questions. Yeah, the video, the recording will be available. Any questions at this point? Okay, no questions. Interesting. Now let's look at careers in SAP and then we will probably do wrap up within this session. In SAP, we have different roles. So being a functional consultant is just one of those roles. We have roles in the design of SAP application. We have roles in different modules. We have functional consultants in all these modules I showed you. All these modules have consultants. So if you if you if you like finance, good. If you like if you want to do procurement, material management is for you. If you want to do sales and distribution, awesome. So we have consultants for all the functional modules. Then for those within the project management office, we have SAP business analysts and PMs that manage SAP within the project space. Then we have solution architects that plan the architecture for implementation. Then we have support consultants that's, like super users and key users and those who can support end users. Most functional consultants are also support consultants. And we have SMEs, those who are subject matter experts within the system. But we'll see that as we move. So before we go into this, there is a concept I would like to bring to your notice, which is SAP Joules. Now we're in the age of AI. It's very important that you understand where SAP is with AI. So SAP has a product called SAP Joules. It's an innovative AI assistant platform that transforms the way you engage with SAP business system. So it's really just like you have your chat GPT, we have something similar in Joules. And I'm going to play a very brief so you get to understand how Joules work. And it's a good takeaway for most of us here. So please let me know if you can hear this record.
Joule revolutionizes how you interact
Please, did you hear it? Awesome. Okay, thank you. Thank you for confirming.
with your SAP business systems, making every touch point count and every task simpler. For example, let's see how Joule helps a busy sales manager elevate customer engagement. In SAP Sales Cloud, they see an upcoming meeting with a new account. Joule creates an account summary in advance, combining data from SAP Sales Cloud and SAP S/4HANA Cloud. This saves significant time and prepares them for an effective meeting. To prepare further, they use Joule to find the best fit products for the account. Joule extracts the customer requirements from an email message and passes the data into SAP Intelligent Product Recommendation. They get a best fit product without switching applications or entering data, saving what could be hours of work. Fully prepared for the meeting, they have time for the to-dos on their SAP Start page. An expense awaits approval, but they want to confirm it's within policy. Joule reviews company documents for them and returns the answer with sources, giving them confidence to approve the expense quickly. By simplifying tasks and providing answers grounded in their business data, Joule ensures the sales manager has time and insight to engage effectively with customers. A sales manager is just one of many business roles Joule empowers. From finance, procurement, supply chain, human resources, customer experience, and more, Joule is ready to assist, helping your employees get work done faster, smarter, and better, while maintaining control over decisions and data.
Thank you guys for taking your time to listen to that. Let me see. Should move me to the next slide. Awesome. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. If you have a question.